Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Versi Adams, and welcome back to another segment of ISO 9001 learning videos. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to cover clause 8.4, which deals specifically with control of externally provided processes, products, and services, and what you need to know to comply with the standard. Okay, so first what we're going to do is go through subclause 8.41 general, which is a general clause of section 8.4. The organization shall ensure that externally provided processes, products, and services conform to requirements. The organization shall determine the controls to be applied to externally provided processes, products, and services when A. Products and services from external providers are intended for incorporation into the organization's own products and services. B. Products and services are provided directly to the customer or customers by external providers on behalf of the organization. And C. A process or part of a process is provided by an external provider as a result of a decision by the organization. And furthermore, the organization shall determine and apply criteria for the evaluation, selection, monitoring of performance, and reevaluation of external providers based on their ability to provide processes or products and services in accordance with requirements. The organization shall retain documented information of these activities and any necessary actions arising from the evaluations. Okay, so what does that mean to us and what we need to do to comply with 8.41? So the first thing you're going to need to do is establish a formally documented receiving inspection process for inspection of finished parts, assemblies, and hardware that you purchase from external providers or suppliers, if you want to use the term suppliers. Okay, this also includes parts that are sent outside for additional processing, also referred to as special processes. Those are typically going to be anodizing, heat treatment, painting, welding, and precision cleaning. Now beyond that, you're going to need to document your receiving inspection process. You're going to want to formally document that process. However brief it may be, or however detailed you may want to be, it needs to be documented. Now beyond that, you're going to apply a criteria for evaluating, selecting, monitoring, and reevaluating your external providers. And last but not least, you're going to retain documented information from all of the above. So the receiving inspection process documented, and the evaluation, selection of the monitoring of performance and reevaluating of external providers, that all needs to be maintained as documented information, also referred to as records. Okay, so what I have here is an example of a receiving inspection procedure. And then this procedure, you can see that it starts with a summary, a revision and approval status of the issuing authority for the procedure, goes into the procedure for the receiving and the receiving inspection of the items that come into this organization, and it goes into further detail. I'm not going to go all into detail about this, but I invite you to go ahead and pause this video and take a screenshot of this so you can have this information to use as a guide when you're creating your receiving inspection procedure within your organization. Okay, so now what I'm going to do on this slide and the following 5 slides is show you examples of documents that you should consider incorporating into your QMS system in order to comply with 8.4 of the standard. So this one we're looking at right now is a receiving inspection document. As you can see, it starts with the purpose. It has a revision and approval table. It indicates who and when this document was approved and placed into the quality management system. Then it breaks down further into the receiving inspection process, steps 3.1 through 3.20. What I'm going to invite you to do is to pause this video and take a screenshot of this so you can have this as an example when you're creating your receiving inspection document, if you haven't already done so. Okay? Okay, so what I have here is another example of a receiving inspection process document. It starts with the purpose, the scope, the definitions, the reference documents, forms. This one even goes into counterfeit material control, and then the last section of this procedure is the actual process. And this organization has decided to document the procedure in a process flow diagram, which I'm a big fan of because it helps you to understand the flow of the process, and also helps when it comes to auditing the process. Now, this document I have up here is a supplier management procedure. As I stated earlier, you have to have a process to monitor, select, evaluate, and reevaluate your external providers. And this is an example of a document that this organization uses. Again, it goes into the purpose, the scope, the revision, any definitions that are used throughout the procedure, reference documents, cross-reference documents. They start with a policy, and then the supplier evaluation, and then last they reference the forms that are used as part of the supplier evaluation and supplier management process. Again, feel free to pause this video and take a screenshot and use this for your own reference. Okay? Okay, you're now looking at an approved supplier list, also referred to as a approved vendors list. And what this document does is it states the date that the supplier was entered into their QMS, an optional supplier ID, the name of the supplier, the city and state of where the supplier is located, the approval status of the supplier. In this case, all these suppliers are approved, and the scope of the approval, in other words, the commodity, what it is that the supplier is providing to the organization. Okay, now Section 8.4.11 of AS9100 specifically requires this document. This document is not required of ISO 9001, but it is a hard requirement of AS9100, as it states here. It says the organization shall maintain a register of its external providers that includes approval status, example approved, conditional, or disapproved, and the scope of the approval, example the product type or the process family. Again, this is not a requirement of ISO 9001, but it's a good practice that I see used amongst the many audits that I do. Okay, so it's something for you to consider. But again, AS9100, it's required. ISO 9001, it's not a requirement. Okay, what you see on this slide are the first 2 pages, and the following slide I'm going to show you a couple more pages of the same document. And what it is a supplier quality system assessment. So what I mentioned to you earlier, that you're going to have a process to monitor, to select, evaluate, and reevaluate your suppliers. And this is a document that I see in different variations, but it's one I often see used on the many audits that I do to comply with 8.4 of ISO 9001. Okay, continuing on with the supplier quality system assessment, these 2 pages here gives you examples of the type of information that you're going to want to collect from your suppliers in order to evaluate them. Here you have Section 4, supplier quality control, process control, inspection, non-conforming material, preservation and packaging, control of customer supply products and or equipment, records retention, calibration, and then a section for preventive maintenance. So again, this is an example of a supplier quality system assessment that many organizations out there incorporate into their quality management system in order to evaluate their current or potential suppliers. Okay, so let's talk about 8.4.2, type and extent of control. So as the standard states, it says the organization shall ensure that externally provided processes, products, and services do not adversely affect the organization's ability to consistently deliver conforming products and services to its customers. Okay, so this section of the standard, 8.4.2, is and its subclauses A, B, C, and D. What it's referring to is basically your receiving inspection and your supplier management process. Okay, so the organization shall ensure that externally provided processes remain within the control of its quality management system. This is your receiving inspection of your purchased materials, processes, and services. B, define both the controls that it intends to apply to an external provider and those it intends to apply to the resulting the resulting output. So again, this is your receiving inspection and your supplier management process. C, take into consideration the potential impact of the externally provided processes, products, and services on the organization's ability to consistently meet customer and applicable statutory and regulatory requirements. The effectiveness of the controls applied by the external provider. And then last, D, determine the verification or activities necessary to ensure that externally provided processes, products, and services meet requirements. All of this is, again, like I said, pointing to your receiving inspection process for finished products that you purchase externally and services that you purchase externally, and your supplier management process. Okay, let's talk about 8.4.3, information for external providers. The organization shall ensure the adequacy of requirements prior to their communication to the external provider. The organization shall communicate to external providers its requirements for A, the processes, products, and services to be provided. So what we're referring to here is you're basically how you communicating this information to your provider through the purchase order. Your purchase order is the document that you need to adequately communicate to your provider what it is that you're buying, how many you're buying, the expected date that you expect to have that item or items at your facility, how many, and the unit cost. So in this example here, you see this is where we're communicating this information in this example purchase order you see here. Okay? Okay, as we continue on with 8.43, information for external providers. The organization shall communicate to external providers its requirements for B, the approval of products and services, methods, processes, and equipment, the release of products and services, C, competence, including any required qualification of persons, D, the external provider's interactions with the organization, E, control and monitoring of external providers' performance to be applied by the organization, and F, verification or validation activities that the organization or its customer intends to perform at the external provider's premises. Okay, so in the previous slide we talked about the need to implement a terms and conditions document in order to comply with 8.43b, communicating information to your external providers. Okay, so again, 8.43b says that the organization shall communicate to external providers its requirements for B, the approval of products and services, the methods, processes, and equipment, the release of products and services, competence including any required qualification of persons, the external provider's interactions with the organization, control and monitoring of the external provider's performance to be applied by the organization, and verification or validation activities that the organization or its customer intends to perform at the external provider's premises. So this terms and conditions document that you're looking at right now is widely accepted and used by many companies out there. It is accepted by auditors such as myself and others. So go ahead and pause your video and take a screenshot and kind of use this information as you draft your own internal terms and conditions document that you're going to use to comply with 8.43b. Okay, everyone. Well, that is the end of this session of Clause 8.4, Control of Externally Provided Processes, Products, and Services, what you need to know to comply. I hope that you found this useful and informative. My contact information is provided below for you. If you feel like you want to reach out to me, please do so. Just give me about a day to respond, but I will respond. Thank you very much again, and please be safe, everyone.